Delighted to be joined today by Rohitesh Dhawan, who's the CEO of ICMM. Delighted to have you with us today, Ro.
Always great to see you, Andrew.
Ro, at an event last week, you said the ICM high bar isn't a constraint, it is a compass. What do you mean by that?
Let's be clear, we haven't always gotten it right, but we have always tried to push ourselves to be as good as we can be when it comes to maximizing the benefits of mining and minimizing the impacts on society. Some people see that benchmark as a hurdle that's either too high for people to get to, and I make no apologies for the fact that it is a stretch. That's what we should be striving for as a society and as an industry, to always be better and to continuously improve. I'm also under no illusions that we are never going to use it as a way of saying, look at us, we're the best, and nobody can touch us. Not at all, because we have made mistakes and we have caused harm in ways that we shouldn't have. But actually, that is what pushes us to keep that bar as high as we can and to keep improving it over time. And so, as I said to the group last week, and I will say it again, anybody who is committed to responsible practices is welcome to join the ICMM family. So far, it is 24 companies that have joined this group, and we are consistently evaluating new members seeking to join us. Many are in the process, and we don't expect people to be 100% of the way there before they're admitted. But they do need to be committed to applying the standards, and they need to be close enough so that they have a short period of time where they can close any remaining gaps. But Andrew, I'm sure you'll agree, the world would be a worse place if we were to lower the bar at ICMM, and that's not what we're about.
Mm-hmm. And linked to that, you've emphasized the need for governments to actively broker relationships between mining companies and local communities. How does ICMM facilitate this process, and what specific role should governments play in ensuring free, prior and informed consent is generally achieved?
So, Andrew, free, prior and informed consent, or FPIC, is one of the most important principles of responsible mining. It says that governments have an obligation to achieve that free, prior and informed consent of Indigenous communities before any project is given the permission to proceed. That is an obligation on governments that is separate to, but complementary with, the expectation that companies will always respect the rights of Indigenous peoples when they mine. And so companies are part of the process by which governments obtain the free, prior and informed consent of communities, but they are two separate and complementary obligations that people have. Now, Andrew, up until now, we've had a situation where, by and large, governments have been absent from the process of building societal consensus, including obtaining the free, prior and informed consent of Indigenous communities. They have left it essentially largely up to companies and communities to negotiate directly. And while that relationship is super important and needs to continue, as I've said, it is a complementary track to the government-led process of obtaining FPIC. And that's what we've been calling for, is for governments to be more actively involved, to be engaging Indigenous communities in a way that respects their rights and ensures that they are fully aware before they consent or decide to withhold their consent to a mining project. And the government then therefore sets out a course forward, taking all these considerations into account. So what we've done, Andrew, is we have given a very clear blueprint and a commitment for how ICMM members will engage it, so that we are always respecting the rights of Indigenous people. That includes a commitment to mine only with agreement with Indigenous communities before mining projects proceed. And what we've been doing is advocating with governments that they step up and fulfill their obligation to obtain the free, prior and informed consent, and to work with us on our position statement, so that ultimately Indigenous communities have confidence that whether they're dealing with the governments or they're dealing with companies, we're all committing to respecting Indigenous rights.
Mm-hmm. ICMM is working towards consolidating various mining standards into a unified global framework. What challenges do you foresee in harmonizing these standards across diverse jurisdictions, and how can ICMM ensure broad adoption amongst both large and small scale miners?
Andrew, the grey hair on my head is testament to the challenges of a process like this. It has been very complex, but so rewarding, because every time we speak to investors, customers, NGOs, mining companies, governments, they all say the same thing, which is that we desperately need a fewer number of high quality mining standards so that we can be all clear on what the standard expected of companies is, and so that we can get a high portion of the companies that don't currently adopt any standard to adopt something. Because what we don't currently have is anything that is fit for purpose for companies that are at different stages of the journey. There are people that are leading companies like those in ICMM. There are those that are following good practices. And then there are people that are starting out or are early in their sustainability journey. And building a standard that gives a space for everyone and promotes that continuous improvement without lowering the bar has been the most difficult challenge, Andrew. But we have made really good progress, and we are now in the last phase of finalizing the standard and assurance system, and very importantly, a independent, credible governance mechanism which draws from a variety of stakeholder groups in an equal power sharing model, so that everyone has confidence that the standard and assurance system is being managed in a way that doesn't allow any group, not least the industry, to exert undue influence over the standard and how it is being adopted. We've made excellent progress there, and there's widespread support for the governance model that we have proposed, which builds on the experience of other standards and gives us something that is truly fit for purpose for this moment and this phase that we find the industry in. And we're just finalizing now which requirements of the standard will apply, for example, at the basic or foundational level, which will apply at the good practice level, and which will apply at the leading practice level. Because as I said, Andrew, our task here is to not build the purest, most theoretically sound standard. That helps nobody. What we need is a standard that is high bar, robust, promotes continuous improvement, and will lead to real change on the ground. And that's what the Consolidated Mining Standard is designed to do.
I'd now like to change tack and ask you some slightly like esoteric questions, but we always get some great answers when I ask some of our leading speakers at Resourcing tomorrow. What are either the one book or up to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life?
Oh, I love that question, Andrew. I love that question. So the book I cannot get out of my head that has fundamentally changed me from within is a book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. Now, has anybody ever said that, Andrew? Has that come up?
No, it has not, but tell me more.
Okay, so 4,000 weeks is the average lifetime of you and me. That's all we have to live on this earth, is approximately 4,000 weeks. And Oliver Burkeman has this beautiful way of reminding us of the finitude of life. That's not a new concept. We all say it, don't we, that life is short. But his revolutionary idea is to remind us that given our lifetime is so short, we will not get to do all the things we want to do. So conventional wisdom is prioritize, only do the things that you really want to do, and don't waste your time on things you don't. But actually what he says is that's a trap. That's wrong. It makes you think that there is enough time to do the things you really want to do, when in reality, there's not enough time even to do the things you really want to do. So get comfortable with it, and as a result, become even more invested in the present, in the things that you do get to do, because the 4,000 weeks really are a gift.
I know that one thing that you and I are very passionate about is encouraging more students and more young people into the world of mining. What advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world? And what advice should they ignore?
The advice I would give them is that what feels like play to you but work to others, go do that. And because what I find is that there is something that each of us is good at that comes so naturally to us that people say to us, hey, how do you do that so often, so hard, so intensely? And when somebody says that to you, you think, but it's not even an effort. This is the thing that comes most naturally to me. So what feels like play to you, but work to others, that's where you should put your energy. And Andrew, I would say that for most people, whatever that answer is, the mining industry gives you the space to do that. If you said, what feels like play to me is to uncover amazing fossils and learn about where humans came from. Brilliant, come to mining. That's the place where you can do amazing anthropology. Or if you said, what feels like play to me is spending time out in nature, studying animals, and understanding the bush. Wonderful. Come to mining because we need some of the best biologists and people that are going to help us protect and preserve nature as we mine. And I could go through almost every passion that somebody might have, and I can give you absolutely the use case of mining that they would be able to put that towards. And so I truly mean it when I say, Andrew, that mining is a career for everyone. No matter what your actual interest is, mining is the actual frame on which you can do whatever you want with that skill and interest that you have. And then the advice to ignore, Andrew, would be to follow your passion. You know, this is something that's said really often. What do you mean by follow your passion? I could be really passionate about something, but not be very good at it, which is why I said follow what feels like play to you, but work to others. Passion is often used as a way of thinking about what interests you. And that's not good enough for picking where you're going to spend half or more of your waking hours. I think you should use a better sense of when you're in a state of flow and what feels like play to you to decide where you actually spend your energies when it comes to your career.
And if I've got time to squeeze in one last question, because we always get some interesting answers to this. How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
Gosh, Andrew, you ask some wonderful questions. The failure that has probably helped me the most is that I submitted no short of 200 applications for graduate positions after my undergraduate degree, and I got 199 rejections. Now, that isn't, Andrew, because I was a bad student. It was actually because I was living in South Africa without the right to work there. I was there on a student visa. And so the task of getting rejected one after another for positions I thought I really wanted, including some of these really nice sounding graduate roles at banks and leading companies, made me realize that you can get rejected 199 times, and on the 200th time, somebody will give you a chance. And I was very lucky that the person who gave me a chance was a lady called Lulu Kruchel, who worked at KPMG in South Africa. And for reasons I can't even tell you today, Andrew, she must have seen something in me that made her want to bet on this random young person and go through the schlep of getting me the right to work in South Africa when it was an extremely hard thing to do and when she should have just rejected me like everybody else did. And so it taught me that even after 199 failures, there could be somebody that does take a chance on you if you continue to show up.
Ro, it's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you today. We're really looking forward to seeing you at Resorting tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Andrew.